This is Rex Palmatier with Charging Technologies Inc. out of St. Louis, Missouri, and today we're going to show you how to install a TOBi P.I. battery monitor. The tools that you're going to require are pretty simple. Start with your safety equipment, gloves, glasses, cordless drill, 5/32 and 1/2 inch drill bits, wire brush, 5/16 drill bit or nut driver, no-ox grease, side cutters, and electrical tape. It's recommended that you keep your tools to the side of the battery. You never want to put a tool on top of the battery because it could short the cell. You want to position the TOBi near the center of the battery. Remove the caps from the negative, positive, and 12-volt cells. The 12-volt tap is 6 cells back from negative post. You want to install on the positive side of that 12-volt tap. Start out by cleaning all the posts off. Using your 5/32 inch bit, you're going to drill about a 1/2 inch deep drill, 1/2 inch deep hole in each of those posts. Then use your no-ox grease to put a little dab in each one of those penetrations that you just made. We're going to secure the TOBi P.I. in the middle of the battery using the long plastic wire ties supplied with the TOBi P.I. Now the sequence for installing the wires is very important. You start with the black wire, then the blue wire, and then the red. So we start by routing our black wire down to the negative post on the battery. Next we'll run the blue wire over to the 12-volt tap. And then the red wire goes to the positive post on the battery. Now we're going to install the current shunt, and you will route that the same way that you did the black wire. It's going to go up to the negative post on the battery, and on the end of the shunt you'll see a little label that says up. You want to make sure that that is facing up when you put it on the negative cable. You want to put that as close to the negative post as possible, and you're going to install it using 3 plastic wire ties. We also provide heat shrink that you can install instead of the wire ties if necessary. After you've cleaned those up, wrap electrical tape around them to protect that junction. Now we're going to install our combination water, level, and thermistor. For that you need to be at least 4 cells back from negative, as close to the center of the battery as possible, and you want to install it someplace that won't interfere with anything else. You'll use your 1/2 inch drill bit, and be careful going down into the battery to keep above the moss shield, and any of the plastic shavings need to be picked up immediately so they don't fall in the hole. Remove the rubber grommet off of the probe, and using one of the plastic wire ties, drop it into the hole to get a gauge of how deep that is. And then you'll use that and trim that probe about an 1/8 inch back. Put the rubber grommet in the hole and then install your probe down into the grommet. Cover all the screw heads with a nice liberal dab of no-ox grease. And then using the remaining plastic ties, go around and clean up all the wires, making them as neat as possible. You can lift one of the watering caps to run a wire alongside that, as long as you're careful to get that watering cap securely back into place. Replace all of the caps, and you're ready to move on to the next step, the setup and calibration of the TOBi P.I. Now that we have the TOBi P.I. installed on the battery, we have to take the final step, which is to tell the TOBi P.I. what battery it's on and to calibrate the shunt. So to do that, we need to have TOBi software installed on our computer, and after you've done that, you'll have two new icons on your screen. One will say TOBi YZ, one will say TOBi Reports. TOBi YZ is what we'll use today to communicate with the device. TOBi Reports is what you will use in the future to upload data, or after you've uploaded data, to be able to run reports and look at things on the battery. So we're going to click TOBi YZ and open that software up. First thing that you'll see is that it's starting the network, so it's opening a channel, an available channel to send out a signal to look for all of the TOBis that are within range. It would also show any of the chargers that have the TOBi chip in them. You need to set the clock, and I would always select set all, and it's going to set it to the time that's on the computer that you're using, so it verifies that that's what you want to do. The battery tab actually is the TOBi tab, so the bare minimum we have to do battery information and calibrate. So this is where we put our model information in. So the model of the charger that the battery that we had is an 1885-15. Serial number is 2080-R. Now the customer ID number, that can be the asset number of the battery or of the truck. A lot of customers just want to have that customer ID number to also be the serial number of the truck. That's the case here, so we're going to put 2080 in there. And when you run reports, or in the future when you run the software, this is what you'll see pop up on the battery ID number, is what you put in here. This happens to be a 36 volt 595 amp hour battery. Whenever you put any data in here, you have to save it. These three boxes over here are optional. These boxes over here are required. You have to put all of this information in. So right now, this is customer identification data if they want it. This happens to be a sit-down truck. The area is in shipping, and this happens to be, for them, building number 2. Again, you save and exit. And finally, to calibrate. Now, when you calibrate, you need to have a 0 reference point and then a known amp throughput. So first thing you're going to see here is a little screen that says, did you install the shunt correctly? With the little label pointing up and up close against the negative post. We've done all that, so we say yes. Next, it wants to establish a 0 reference point, so it wants to make sure that you're not connected to the charger or the truck. Okay. It's going to set a 0 reference point, and then it's going to ask you connect to the battery or put it under load, or I'm sorry, connect to a charger or put it under load. A charger is the very best, that has a display that will show you the amp throughput. If you don't have that available, you can use a meter and put a load on the truck itself and put your meter on the cables, and with your meter show what amp throughput is going. It's not as accurate, so I recommend always use a charger. So we're going to connect to the charger now. And what it's waiting for is the charger to come on. And once it recognizes current going through that shunt, And then you look at the charger screen and see how many amps are going through at that point. And right now it's kind of vacillating between 149 and 150. I'm going to put 150 in there. Okay. It's putting that in the TOBi, and now it's going to read the current going through. It says it's reading 150. Look at the screen. I see that we're at 150, so we've got a dead on calibration. Okay. And that's the minimum. That's finished. That's what you have to do to set up the TOBi to the battery and to calibrate the shunt. That calibration should be within 3 amps for you to have a good calibration. If you don't get it within 3 amps, you should recalibrate.